So I'd like to introduce Mary Pille. She's been a pace setter in Central Illinois, serving in leadership roles in many community-based initiatives at the local, regional, and national levels over the years. Professionally, she has more than 30 years' experience in leadership operations, marketing, human resources, and workforce development across multiple industry sectors. Her educational background includes a BS in fashion merchandising and business administration from Illinois State University and an executive MBA from Broadley University. Currently, Mary serves as the president of Junior Achievement of Central Illinois with the mission of inspiring and preparing young people to succeed in a global economy. In the last 10 years, Mary and her team of staff have consistently taken Junior Achievement of Central Illinois to a higher tier of accomplishment by progressively setting records for the organization, namely a 33% increase in revenue, a geographic expansion of 12 to 29 counties, the creation of 3 local area boards to grow grassroots efforts in outlying areas, the achievement of a 5-star status with the JAUSA for exceeding operating standards, a 2016 finalist of the JAUSA Carl Flemke National Leadership Award, and most recently, setting a new record of student impact, 93,940 contact hours in one school year. Mary is a recent recipient of the 2019 Women of Influence 25 Women in Leadership Award. She has also been involved in many community-based initiatives on the local, regional, and national levels over the years. Mary?
I think I'll adjust it again. Somewhere in the middle, though. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for the invitation to be here today. It is really a great honor for me to be here. And there's so many people in the room that I know, but I haven't seen for a long time. But there's also a lot of new faces. I see some current JA volunteers. I see some past JA volunteers. So this is going to be a lot of fun. So with that, I'm going to get started. This is supposed to, oh, there we go. Okay, so take a step back, think about your younger self, okay? Think back to when you were a young person. What advice would you give yourself today? Got just a few examples up there. Would you have taken that calculated risk to pursue your big idea? Would you have signed up for that credit card to get the free stuff? You know, it's a t-shirt that you end up charging hundreds of dollars worth of gasoline that you could have actually paid for, but yet you end up paying interest on it. Sounds like I might have actually experienced that, right? Would you have found a mentor to work with, to talk to about a career that you might someday want to pursue? Would you have taken out all of those student loans to get your degree and maybe something you didn't even work in, and 20 years later you're still paying it off? Well, if only we knew then what we know now, right? So that's what we're all about. Our North Star is to help young people have the skill set and the mindset to build thriving economies and communities. And we do that strategically by being program-centric with our experiential learning and helping students to master skills and also to be community-centric. I'm going to get into a few of those issues that we are facing right here in Central Illinois. So we look at our overall, we serve students in grades K through 12. Our 3 pathways are financial literacy, work and career readiness, and entrepreneurship. So last year we went through almost a year-long process of doing some strategic planning. We had the great fortune of having a black belt from Caterpillar work with us. And so every year we set a goal for the number of students we want to impact, but we went through this process of identifying, doing a survey, a study of the community. Where are the greatest needs? What are the biggest challenges that students are facing? And what are some of the trends that we're seeing locally and on the national level that we should be focusing on. And so in the past, we would have been a lot more heavily weighted toward elementary grade students, which is great. It's easier to find volunteers to go in and teach kindergartners or first graders or second graders. But really, we are finding that it's middle school and high school students that are greatly impacted by the learning experiences that JA has to offer. So with that said, we have dedicated to making sure that 50% of our 16,000 students that we have a goal of impacting this year are within those age groups. So for those of you who don't know what junior achievement is or kind of who we are, maybe some misperceptions, we have a 29 county footprint. We're pretty active in about 11 of those. We serve grades K through 12. We now, last year, JAUSA, we embarked on a new effort to go beyond that, serving 18 to 25-year-olds. And there was an academic professional that told me that they're kind of like the lost age group of students because they're out of high school, but who knows what's happened to them, 18 to 25 years old. There's some scary statistics about this age group I'm going to share. So we partner with about 170 schools on an annual basis. We have over 700 volunteers, always looking for more. Reading is one part of the solution, so is financial literacy. So anyway, we do all of this with 6 full-time equivalents, so we're a pretty small team. We have a governing board with 30 members, and we also have a young professional board, a Morton and McLean County area board. We, as she mentioned in my introduction, thank you very much, are a 5-star JA area. And we're part of the JAUSA network, which is about 105 JA areas all across the United States. So we cover every single state, every major and small market. So it's big. It's like, 6 million students a year across the United States get to have JA. So how are we able to fund these learning experiences that go into the classroom? We do it right here out of our 6 FTEs. We're a 501c3, and we raise all of our own money to go in and provide these experiences to the schools, to the students, to the classes with no cost to them. So we raise all the money to make that happen. And you might wonder, well, who volunteers? Volunteers come from all walks of life. We even have a program that's called High School Heroes, where we have high school kids that we take through leadership lessons, conflict resolution, public speaking, and then they actually go and teach kindergarten through 3rd, 4th graders. They become the classroom volunteer. We just did that this year between Richwoods and Northmore, and it just worked out really, really great. The little kids love the high school kids. The high school kids that built their public speaking, their self-confidence, they were just super into it. It was pretty cool. So why JA? So here's some of the scary things that's going on. And this, I'm going to just look at my notes for this. This is that 18 to 25-year-old age group. It is the fastest growing age group for bankruptcies. In our community, you have a lot of folks that come in and talk about Central Illinois. There's 18% of households right here that have 0 net worth. Just think about that. That's pretty scary. 64% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and that is up since the beginning of December, and that might even be up since then. So these are just a few of the financial literacy ones. Work and career readiness, the age group, the kids that are coming out of high school and out of college perhaps have not had the opportunity to work and have a job before they get to that point in their lives. So therefore, they are not as knowledgeable on how to work. And so they, employers are having a few issues with this. And that right here, we have 1 in 5 children that are living in poverty. And so we know that that has a lot of circumstances that goes along with that. And It's undercutting their opportunity to be successful. But we want to make a difference with that. Entrepreneurship, as we all know, we talk about the big companies that we have, but really the backbone of America is small business and its entrepreneurs, whether they are innovators that have big ideas to start something new from scratch, or basically entrepreneurs that own their own stores, have their own businesses. We need that in America because that really is the generator of the majority of jobs at all different levels. And this is not required in Illinois, but in some schools and in some states, entrepreneurship is actually something that you can take classes and you can learn what it's like to, start your own business or do those kinds of things. So Illinois is not one of those, but we are doing things locally. So we did Ipsos is an internationally known organization that does surveys for governments and companies. And so they did a survey for us of JA alumni. And so when we think about, I don't think this whole thing. Oh, here's a good one. 34% versus 68%. This is the percentage of 18 to 29-year-olds that are financially independent from their parents. So if you think about kids that are still in the basement or still living at home, if your kids had JA, more likely they would be out living in their own apartment or house versus being at home. I don't know, some parents like having their kids at home, so I don't know, that could be a good or bad statistic. So the difference between living paycheck to paycheck, it's 64 versus 46. I wish it was a little better, but that's still better than the national average. So this is what they said about students that had JA, and they were surveyed. 81% said that having junior achievement helped them think about their career path. 84% said it helped them with their professional development. They found it extremely fulfilling. And what did I do? They said it was a great experience overall. It exposed them to new ways of thinking. Isn't that interesting? So if you've got, a volunteer from a bank or from a manufacturer, they're an accountant, they're an attorney, they might, bring in their own personal experiences of their career or what they've learned, and that just might get a student to start thinking differently, huh? It motivated them to learn. So one of the things we often say is that junior achievement helps connect the dots for students between what they're learning in school and why it's important. So if you're not real fond of math, and you're like, oh, this isn't for me, there really are some very practical applications of math that you need. And it helps kids think about that and like, okay, well, I guess this isn't so bad, I'll give it a try. And this is really important too. And I think the part about having that belief in themselves and that they can achieve goals, or the fact that they even want to make goals to achieve, I think is a big thing. And I think especially coming out of the pandemic, I think that there's a lot of work to be done around this area of students getting reacclimated to get it back into the classroom. They missed a couple of years of very developmental time, socially and emotionally, and helping them kind of get that belief in themselves and get back on the saddle and go, I think is pretty important. So here's what we're doing in action. This is really just a deeper dive into our different pathways. So the financial literacy piece is ensuring that students graduate from high school with the needed skills and a clear understanding of how to find financial sustainability. So a lot of times when I'm talking with individuals about junior achievement, and we say, well, we help students, as early as, third, fourth grade, start working on finances, and third grade, for example, that we teach children about invisible money. What's the difference between debit and credit? Is this, Clay, you do third grade?
I do.
Yeah, So you know, we're little kids are learning about spending, saving, budgeting, and donating. Taxes, yep. So as young as third grade. So think about a third grader learning that, and then over the years it gets a little more complicated, if you will, but they're learning it all the way along. It's not one and done. Kids don't learn by just one and done. So these are just some examples of the JA programs that we have. On the left is elementary, middle school, high school, work and career readiness. That's pretty self-explanatory. We got to get the young folks ready to go into the workforce, right? So we're just, when in my bio, it says I worked in human resources and workforce development. That's what I did before JA. So I feel like this is just a continuation of that work, just earlier in the supply chain. We've got to get young people ready to go and get them excited to be contributors back into our local community. So these are some of our programs for our elementary, middle, and high school. And then entrepreneurship. I think that's, it's self-explanatory in the respect that it is, helping folks become independent, owning their own business. So even if you're, a financial advisor, you're still an entrepreneur because every decision you make is yours, and it's whether you keep the doors open or not. But if you learn entrepreneurial skill set, they call those the 21st century problem-solving skills. You could take that skill set into an employer. And if you have a problem and you go to your supervisor with that problem, but you have a solution, that's kind of that same mindset that goes along with that. And this is, again, some of our curriculum that we have, elementary, middle, and high school. So hopefully most or all of you have heard of Career Spark and Career Spark You're Hired. We initiated this partnership back in 2017 with the Greater Peoria Economic Development Council. And so proud to say that over 30,000 eighth graders have had this experience. And we do that at the Civic Center. This year it's going to be in September, the end of the month. And 2 years ago, that's in person. We have hundreds of volunteers, hundreds of companies that do hands-on experiences with the students across different industry clusters so that they can just learn about different occupations. So it's not company driven, but it's occupation driven. They learn about jobs in healthcare, manufacturing, ag and natural resources. So it really just opens up their eyes to what are the possibilities. Overwhelmingly, a lot of kids say, wow, I found out about something I had no idea. 2 years ago, we started high school, and high school is all virtual. It's called Career Spark You're Hired, and that we have 30 local employers that have virtual trade show booths, but we also have videos. We have live recorded webinars every Friday, and we have, I think, 50 local employers that have done interviews with us talking about what it's like to work in their company, work in their occupation, what kind of salary can you make, what kind of training, what are your expectations for success. So they're really, really well done. And so we have 5,000 high school students registered to take part in that, and that will run until the middle of June. So we're pushing hard to get the schools, to get the students in there, to get them exposed to this. Both Career Spark and Career Spark You're Hired are also part of the new, newly formed, going to come into effect for all Illinois public schools, called the PACE framework. So this really helps schools meet that objective for the PACE framework without them individually having to go school by school doing this. So just think if every middle school and high school as an employer started coming to you and saying, hey, will you come to our school and do a career fair? I mean, as an employer, you don't have the bandwidth to be at, 15, 20 job fairs every spring and summer. So, so we're hoping to coordinate that effort so that it's an easier lift for everybody, that we can impact so many students, but still make it a beneficial thing for the employers as well. So this one is super cool. This is called JA Finance Park. And this is another one. If you had a chance to have some financial literacy classes with your teacher, either in like 8th grade or in high school, and they take you through this, but in the end, you get to play a game. And the game is about you, and it's an occupation that you've either been assigned if you're an 8th grader, or you've picked it because it's something you want to go into, and you're given a salary, and you're given a life circumstance, and you have to go through and make a budget based on different expense categories, and then you have to go through and make determinations on what you can afford within your budget based on what you make. And so we just did this as kind of a reality fair at one of the Peoria Public Schools recently. And one of the takeaways from that is that some of the students, their life experience is that they have children or they have a child. And the feedback was that kids are expensive. They're like, I don't have enough money to have a child. And so we're like, well, that's a pretty good takeaway. So, it's just kind of a reality thing like that. So this is actually one of our areas that we want to grow and increase because it is a game changer. It can make a difference. The other thing we're working on, I'm super excited about this, is a JA Biz Town. This is a brick and mortar facility that's basically targeted to 5th graders, and we're going to teach them about free enterprise. We're going to teach them how business works, how consumers work, how the government works, and how they all work together. And so they're going to learn from their teacher in the classroom about jobs, businesses, taxes, and then they're going to pull it all together in going to a biz town where they're going to run the city for a day. So we are actually in the process of going through a feasibility study right now to see if we can raise the dollars necessary to make something like this happen right here in Central Illinois. And there are roughly, I don't know, in some markets they have multiple biz towns, they have a combination biz town finance park, but there's nothing like this in Central Illinois. We'll be able to have students come in from, an hour away, so it'll cover a pretty big area. So we're pretty excited about that. It's kind of it'd be very cool for us to have that. Very needed. And then lastly, I left on your tables a brochure, and during the pandemic, JA USA, like everybody, pivoted, went virtual, went online. And so, but I think they took it to the next level, and they've created this very robust website targeted for students, but students and parents can do this together. So independently, if you have a student or a child, grandchild in your life, have them go out and do this, because out there they can, if they are entrepreneurially minded, they could go out there and explore how to pitch their big idea. You could teach them about budgeting on their own and do some career mapping and career planning. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, this is going to be such that students can earn badges, and then those badges can be used in maybe college applications and things like that. So, how to get involved. So I know you're all excited about your reading, but we also have ways to get involved that maybe there's some misperceptions about that. So if you wanted to be an elementary classroom volunteer, it's pretty straightforward. We provide all the training, all the curriculum, and we have a great team that does that. So you get, there's usually about 5 sessions that are 1 class period for elementary. You set up a schedule with your teacher, and you just develop a great rapport with your teacher and with the students. They get to know you. So it could be a great tie-in. If you're going to read for 3rd graders, you could also just continue that by doing JA Your City and teach them about financial literacy. What a great tie-in to why it's important to read, right? And then middle school is 6 sessions typically, high school is 5 to 7. But everybody's different. Some people are more comfortable talking with older kids. And so we have one-time volunteer opportunities with Career Spark. If you want to be a tour guide or a bus grader, that's the end of September. And then the JA Finance Park thing I just mentioned, if you want to be a coach that one day that we're in a school doing the virtual simulation, that's another opportunity. And then lastly, We would love for you to be able to advocate for JA in the community and help get the word out. So with that, I am done. And I realize I'm over time, so I apologize for that. If you have any questions, just see me afterwards. Thank you.